Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome back to Tips for the Time Traveling Courtier, your sassy survival guide to strutting through the muddy, marvelous, and occasionally mayhem-filled streets of medieval Europe. I'm your host, Christina, your slightly sarcastic style coach, here to ensure you don't trip over your doublet, offend a duke, or get laughed out of court for a fashion faux pas. Today, we're diving headfirst, quite literally, into the art of the veil, the coif, and the infamous codpiece. These aren't just accessories. They're your passport to blending in, staying cool, and maybe stealing a few admiring glances at the Florentine court. So adjust your circlet, tie your hose, and let's get dressed. First up, the veil. The veil was the medieval woman's ultimate multitasker, a flowing gauzy statement of virtue, status, or subtle flirtation, depending on how you worked it. From simple linen headscarves for peasants to shimmering silk draperies pinned with jewels for nobility, veils were a must, especially for married women, signaling look, but don't touch. Here's how to rock one without looking like you've auditioned for a nunnery. Pin it like a pro. Secure your veil with small metal pins or a decorative circlet. Think bobby pins or a headband. A slipping veil is a one-way ticket to looking like you lost a wrestling match with a bedsheet. Practice pinning in advance. Medieval mirrors are rare, and you don't want to stab your scalp mid-banquet. Bobby pins, they were not. Sheer silk veils with gold thread scream courtly elegance for Florentine's elite. Sturdy linen is perfect for market days or blending in with merchants' wives. If you're in a religious setting, go for plain white linen. Save the sparkly bits for the palazzo feasts. Veils trap heat like nobody's business, especially in Florence's sweltering summers. Opt for lightweight, loose-weave fabrics like fine linen or silk. Pro tip, dampen your veil slightly with rose water for a medieval air conditioning effect. Just don't overdo it. Accessorize smartly. Pair your veil with a jeweled brooch or a braided headband for extra flair. In 14th century Florence, wealthy women loved adding gem-encrusted pins to show off their status. Keep it subtle, unless you're dealing with the Medici ancestors. Veils weren't just fashion. They protected your hair from dust, bugs, and prying eyes. If you're dodging unwanted attention at court, lower your veil strategically to single. Not today, sir. Bonus, it doubles as a handy face shield against street smells or an overzealous suitor's garlic breath. Caught without pins? Weave a ribbon through your veil and tie it under your hair for a secure, stylish hold. If all else fails, tuck the ends into your neckline and pray nobody notices. It's not perfect, but it's better than chasing your veil across a banquet hall. In 1370s Florence, a chronicle recorded that a noblewoman's veil, adorned with so many pearls it rivaled the stars, collapsed under its own weight during a dance, tripping her into a duke's lap. The scandal was the talk of Tuscany for weeks. Moral: keep your veil light, lest you become the court's cautionary tale. Next up, the coif, that unsung hero of medieval headgear. It was a close-fitting linen wrap worn by men, women, and even kids to keep hair tidy, scalps lice-free, and social status clear. Think of it as a medieval baseball cap, but with more utility and less go fight win energy. Here's how to make it work. Fit is everything. A coif should hug your head snugly without cutting off circulation. Too tight and you'll get a headache. Too loose and it'll slide off mid-bow. Tie it under your chin with strings, or pin it to a larger hat for extra security. Men in Florence often wore coifs under hoods or jaunty felt hats for a polished look. Women paired them with veils or wimples for that married and untouchable vibe. Layering also hid greasy hair. Coifs soak up sweat, grease, and the occasional ale spill, so swap them out daily if you can. Stash a spare in your satchel to avoid earning the dreaded Brother Peter's foot odor reputation. Wash them in steam with a dab of lye soap for maximum freshness. In Florence, a touch of embroidery on the coif would signal wealth without being ostentatious. Stick to simple patterns, floral or geometric, unless you're a noble aiming to outshine the room. A coif can hide a bad hair day, or a modern haircut that screams time traveler. If your locks are too short or suspiciously styled, a coif is your best friend. For men, pair it with a hood to blend into Florence's bustling markets. For women, add a veil for instant respectability. As a bonus, soak your coif in cool water. Rose water if you're fancy, before wearing it on a hot day. It'll keep your head cool and make you smell like you belong in a perfumer's shop. Just wring it out well. Nobody likes a soggy cap dripping on their velvet. In 1360s Burgundy, a knight was mocked for wearing a coif so tight it gave him a permanent squint. Chroniclers noted that he claimed it kept his thoughts pure, but his squire whispered it was to hide a bald spot. Vanity, the name is medieval fashion. And last, but certainly not least, gentlemen, meet the codpiece, the boldest accessory in medieval menswear. Originally, a practical tangle of cloth to cover the front door of your hose, it evolved by the late Middle Ages into a padded, sometimes comically exaggerated statement of, let's call it confidence. Overcompensate much? Google Henry VIII's codpiece. I'll wait. In Florence, where style was king, the codpiece was your chance to shine, or crash and burn. Here's how to wield it wisely. Size matters, but not like that. A modest codpiece says, I'm secure. An oversized one screams, I'm overcompensating. In 14th century Florence, subtlety was key. Save the giant codpieces for the 16th century Tudors. Aim for functional over flamboyant. Secure the goods. Tie or pin your codpiece firmly to your hose. A loose codpiece is a social disaster waiting to happen, especially during a lively dance. Double-check those knots before strutting into court. Some nobles jazzed up their codpieces with embroidery, ribbons, or even jewels. In Florence, a single tasteful monogram or a silk trim was enough to impress without looking like a peacock. Leave the bedazzled groins to the jesters. Move with confidence. A codpiece gives you the freedom to move without flashing the village, but it also draws eyes. Practice walking and sitting to avoid awkward bulges or wardrobe malfunctions. Grace is your ally. Nervous about pulling off a codpiece? Channel your inner Florentine merchant. Stand tall, shoulders back, and act like you were born wearing it. If anyone stares, give a knowing nod and say, tailored in Milan. They'll be too impressed to question you. Use your codpiece as a sneaky storage pouch for small items like coins or a tiny dagger. Just don't stab yourself. Line it with soft linen to avoid chafing. Comfort is key when you're making a bold fashion statement. In 15th century Venice, a merchant sported a codpiece so extravagantly padded it got caught in a gondola's oarlock, capsizing him into the canal. The incident was immortalized in a bawdy tavern song, proving that codpiece hubris is a universal language. Veils, coifs, and codpieces weren't just about vanity. They were practical survival tools. Veils shielded your hair from dust, bugs, and the occasional chamber pot bomb splash. Coifs kept lice at bay and hid questionable haircuts, while codpieces gave men mobility without exposing their assets. But mess up your accessorizing and you'd mark yourself as an outsider faster than a modern accent or a misplaced iPhone. In Florence's fashion-conscious streets, a well-chosen veil or coif could open doors, or at least keep you from being laughed out of them. Layering accessories was a medieval superpower. A coif under a hood, a veil over a wimple, or a codpiece paired with tight hose made you look intentional, not accidental. Sprinkle your veil or coif with crushed lavender or cloves for subtle fragrance. It masks body odor and signals refinement. For codpieces, tuck a sachet of herbs inside to keep things fresh, because nobody wants a funky codpiece ruining their courtly charm. It's time for Fashionably Foul, our segment on medieval fashion flops. Today's star, Isabella of France. She once wore a veil so long it trailed into a banquet's fireplace, sparking a minor blaze. Quick-thinking servants doused it, but the court whispered about her fiery ambition for years. Keep your veil short, friends. Medieval folks believed soaking a coif, or veil, in vinegar could ward off the plague by purifying the air. Did it work? Not really. But it definitely kept people at a distance. Plague or no plague. If you're desperate to avoid disease, or nosy courtiers, try it. Just don't expect an invite to the feast smelling like a pickle jar. Some men tucked tiny amulets into their codpieces, believing they protected themselves against evil spirits or other misfortunes. A small cross or herb sachet was common. It's weird, but it boosts your confidence. Go for it. Just don't let it jingle during a quiet moment at court. Let's dive into the real courtier confessions, where we spill the silk on medieval-style triumphs and tragedies. In 15th century Burgundy, a nobleman sported a codpiece so overstuffed it got caught in a doorway, toppling a candelabra and nearly setting the hall ablaze. The court dubbed him Sir Spark for the rest of his days. A 14th century Florentine lady's towering veil, piled high with ribbons, collapsed mid-dance, entangling her with a bishop. The chronicler wrote, "Her grace was undone by her ambition to touch the heavens." She retired to a convent shortly after. In a 13th century French monastery, Brother Anselm was reported for wearing a coif so tight it squeezed unholy thoughts into his head. His defense? It kept his ears warm. The abbot was not amused. A Venetian trader in 1390s Florence wore a codpiece embroidered with gold thread, hoping to impress a noblewoman. Instead, it drew pickpockets, who cut off his hose during a market brawl, leaving him mortified and underdressed. It's time for listener questions, where we tackle your medieval style dilemmas. Today's query comes from Fancy Felicity. Dear Time Traveling Courtier, I'm headed to 14th century for Florence, and I'm obsessed with looking fabulous. How do I style a veil or a coif without looking like a nun? Oh, Fancy Felicity, you're about to dazzle in Florentine's fashion-forward streets. Here's your guide to slaying the medieval way. Wear a lightweight silk veil under a circlet for extra panache. Ensure it fits snugly, but not brain-squeezing tight. Swap it daily to keep it fresh. Florence's heat is no joke. Carry a pomander stuffed with lavender, cloves, or cinnamon. Tuck a sachet of herbs into your coif or codpiece for daily freshness. If anyone questions your scent, smile and say, "It's the latest from the courts of Milan." They'll be too dazzled to argue. You've got this. Here's your starter pack for mastering the veil, the coif, and the codpiece. A breezy silk or linen veil with a circlet or pins. A snug linen coif with a touch of embroidery. A modest codpiece, securely tied please. A sachet of lavender or cloves for scent. The confidence to wear it all like you were born in 1350. Stay stylish, stay safe, and thanks for tuning in to Tips for the Time Traveling Courtier. I'll see you for more tips and tricks in a few weeks, unless you're hearing this on Patreon, and then I'll see you guys every week. Until next time, keep your veil pinned, your coif fresh, your codpiece secure, and your chamber pot bombs at a safe distance. Stay fabulous, and may St. Crispin, patron of shoemakers, cobblers, and leatherworkers, guide your fashion travels.